You are listening to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, a mom of two and your secret weapon to creating a six-figure digital product business. I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women make $100,000 a year. That's right, $100 million towards financial independence for women. As an online business expert, I am teaching you everything I know right here week after week, so you can join us on the journey to $100 million. Sound good? Then let's jump in. This episode is for all of my moms or not moms out there who are stuck in their 9-to-5 or working a job they can't stand, or maybe they took some time off to have babies and it's time to start making money on your own terms and you have no idea where to start. And here's the thing. This podcast is all about how to create a digital product business and make lots of money doing it. But there are other ways to get started making money online that can fund all the things you need to create digital products. And one of those ways is to become a freelancer. So I thought, who could I bring on the show that is like an expert in teaching, particularly other moms, how to freelance in the margins? Like I'm talking like an average of like 10 to 25 hours a week, which, you know, is something that even if you're working full time, you might be able to squeeze in if this is something you want enough. So I decided to bring on a good friend of mine. Her name is Micala Quinn. And Micala is a Kansas City mom, wife, former teacher, and current CEO solving the modern working mom dilemma. A Forbes and Fox4 featured contributor, Micala coaches women looking to lead and launch successful, sustainable freelance businesses. To date, more than 1,500 women across the country and world have enrolled in her signature program, Overwhelmed to Overbooked. And in late 2018, Micala launched the Live Free podcast to spread her freelancing method and mission throughout the world. A fixture in iTunes top 20 for entrepreneur podcasts, it has surpassed 160,000 downloads. That's really impressive. When Micala is not leading the charge to provide women with the freedom to work and mother, you can catch her walking to the park with her kiddos, making cookies, or watching a rerun of Friends for the millionth time with her cute husband. So let's welcome Micala on and learn all about how we can freelance in the margins and make good money doing it. Micala, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you.
Monica, thank you so much for having me. I am pumped to be here and connecting with you.
I know, the podcast I did with you is still to this day, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even know. It was a while ago. It's still one of my top referral sources in terms of like people who email and say, I heard you on Micala's podcast. Like, and I've been on so many podcasts.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy.
Right? So your podcast is obviously resonating with people because people are still coming and like, they think I'm doing Pinterest still and I'm not. I'm like, that was an old episode, but like, that's so cool that you still listen to her back catalog.
Yeah. I get a lot of people that start from the beginning.
Do you? That's fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. I am not one that goes back to the beginning of a podcast when I'm listening. You need it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not either.
So your audience really loves you. So like, so I feel like you're going to have a lot to share. So I always like to get started with asking everyone about their entrepreneurial journey, how they got started and where they are today.
Yeah. So mine started with me not really knowing that I was starting an entrepreneurial journey. I was just a mom. I had a brand new baby and I was teaching at the time. And I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I was searching all the things, trying to figure out a way to become a stay-at-home mom because that's what I wanted to do. And we couldn't afford to live on just one income. And so I was searching for different ideas, how to budget, different businesses I could start, looking at different job opportunities that would allow me to be at home, but also still make a decent income. And a lot of the options were just terrible and not what I wanted. It took me about from when I was pregnant to when my daughter was about 6 months old to when I finally fell into freelancing. And before I found freelancing, I had dabbled in like starting a cake business, making and selling cakes. Profit margins were terrible. I was left with a hugely messy kitchen and basically paid to make cakes for people because sugar, butter, all that's so expensive. I'd also tried making and selling bows. But once like all my friends and family bought their obligatory bow, I had no idea how I was going to turn like a $10 bow into replacing my full-time income. So then like those two opportunities I started fizzled and I was just feeling blah, but I pressed on and finally someone told me about this website, hiremymom.com, that posted different flexible positions, jobs for moms that you could do from home whenever it fit your schedule. And so I started applying for those and joined the website subscription. And after 8 months, 8 months of like applying to everything and anything, I finally got hired by my first client. Someone finally was willing to take a chance on a beginner and completely newbie to the virtual assistant and online space. That one client just opened up such a new world of opportunity for me that I had no idea it existed. She was a business coach and a lot of her clients were different other business owners. And one of the first projects she gave me was to go into some of these Facebook groups. Like this was back in 2016. So groups like Boss Moms and Screw the 9 to 5 and whatever Kimra Luna's was back then. Some of those big groups. And she was like, go find out how they're so engaged, create a plan, come back here, implement it for my group. So in doing that, I just kept seeing all of these different other people being like, hey, I need a virtual assistant. Hey, I'm looking for a virtual assistant. You know, once I got started working with that first client and I thought like I'd won the jackpot, won the lottery. And then I started to see all these other people. I quickly started to see how this was going to replace my income. From there, just dove into the world of online business.
So spoiler alert for everyone. Micala has an entire program teaching moms how to ditch their 9 to 5, right? And become freelancers. Okay. So like timeline wise, like how many clients did you have and how long were you just freelancing before the course program world opened up to you?
So I would say my average was about 4 to 5 clients at a time. That was kind of what I could take on to still work about 15 to 20 hours a week. Now, keep in mind, I was doing this while I was still part-time teaching. I went part-time teaching my last year. So I was doing this on the side while still working. When I landed my first client in August, it took me a while to land my first client. I did a podcast episode on all the mistakes I made, so you can learn from that. But when I landed my first client in August, I had tripled my teacher income by middle of February. So 6, 7 months later, just with freelancing, working 15 to 20 hours a week.
Wow.
Compared to teaching where I was working, I taught high school English, the honors kids. So I was constantly grading papers, constantly reading, did so much work outside of the classroom, 55 to 60 plus hours a week. And I took home $1,000 a month after I paid daycare.
Oh my goodness.
So when I was pregnant with my second son in April, went on maternity leave and never went back to teaching in the classroom.
So that was April of 2017?
Yes.
Okay. Under a year, you working part-time, like really part-time hours, you know, tripled what you were
taking home. So what I was taking home and how I figured that I took home $1,000 from teaching after daycare and expenses. When I was freelancing, I back then had no childcare. I was doing it all kind of like the nap time hustle, early morning hours, nap time hours, and taking home $3,500 a month.
Now, do a lot of your moms that you teach now do the nap time hustle or do they have childcare arranged?
It depends. I would say a lot of them start out their initial goal. They go through kind of a similar experience that I did, whereas like we're kind of in this mindset of like, not daycare's the devil, but it's like daycare's awful. We hate it. We want to be home with our kids. And so initially a lot of them do start out working the nap time hustle, working around their kids' schedules so they can avoid putting their kids in daycare. Now, some people don't, but what I find is some people are very happy with that, but some people get started kind of like me and they see, oh my gosh, like there's so much opportunity out there. There's really no limit, no ceiling. And so they will start to scale their business and utilize some part-time childcare or realize that they don't really want to do that. Kind of what I did. I realized that kind of broken up schedule of like an hour here, an hour there, an hour there didn't really work for me anymore. I was getting too frazzled, kind of trying to come into work mode and then hop out real quick. So for now, I just love having like a solid chunk where I can come in, sit down. I still work very part-time hours, roughly about 9 to 2, Monday through Thursday.
With following you Because I mean, I watch your Instagram stories and I have like for years. Like I feel like we've known each other for quite a few years in this world.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting, everyone's journey. Because, in corporate, my biggest complaint was that I'd basically gone from 7 to 7. Like the first 3 years of my oldest daughter's life, I didn't really get a lot of time with her. And so the initial of wanting to do my business full time was to have more freedom and flexibility to be with her. What I quickly learned was I was completely programmed for corporate type hours and working in solid chunks. So it didn't have to be the same hours of corporate, but I could not handle a 3-year-old tapping and needing my attention and getting work done. I was not a nice mom like that. Like I've seen you on Instagram stories. Like, I mean, I've done a call with you in your community where your kids, like you handle the kid being in the room and work like remarkably better than I do. Like if you're frazzled internally, I don't feel like you show it. Me, I was not nice to her. I wasn't doing this to show up like that as a mom. So for me, I realized probably like literally in month 1 that having daycare, we actually never did any formal daycare arrangements. We always had family. Then we had a nanny and we were very fortunate to have a nanny. I actually worked my butt off in this business to have a nanny because that's what I wanted. I wanted her in the house, but I needed my time to work. So I was a nicer mom, That was like the whole point. So I think it's very interesting. I think no one should ever feel bad, no matter what, like whatever they choose, because we all are wired to work different. Like, and you were a teacher too. So like you are accustomed to having kids in your workspace.
Yeah.
And me, I was like, I had a cubicle where no one talked to me for 11 years. So like to have like that interruption all of a sudden is just not something I was accustomed to. So now, okay, I want to talk about the course side of your business and like how that runs. But before we do that, I really feel like there's going to be a decent amount of people listening that want to know more about freelancing and how to get started, because this podcast is about like literally how to build a digital product business. But I've always said, and I've said it in like the early episodes and stuff, is there are a million ways to build a business online. By all means, a digital product is not the only way. It's my preferred way, and hence I teach you. But freelancing is a very, very valid way. So someone who might be like in corporate right now or a stay-at-home mom listening is like, I just want to get started making money. Like how? How do you do that?
Yeah. So that's one thing that I love about freelancing is in all of the different ways to work online, it can be one of the fastest to replace that full-time income or hit that initial income goal, because what you're selling, it's more expensive. The package is greater than a lot of courses or like what some digital products are. So with freelancing, typically you are providing a done-for-you service for another business owner. If we are going at the most basic way, like of how you package and price, go hourly. 25 is kind of like the entry-level starting out range for someone. Entry-level virtual assistant, $25 an hour. So you can take that and times that by, if a client books a 20-hour a month package. One client, $500. And the cool thing about freelancing, if you're offering like virtual assistant, social media management, some copywriting, if you're offering these packages that are recurring, meaning the client is going to need it month to month to month, once you do that initial hustle of landing that client, that can be income you rely on month in and month out, as long as it maintains a great working relationship for both parties. So one client, 500, land another client, you're at 500, that's $1,000. A third client, you're at 1,500. And that's just like the entry level kind of side. So that's why I love freelancing for those people who are really looking for I want to start making money and I want to bring it in fast. There are so many people out there, business owners like myself, like Monica, that need an extra pair of hands. And we don't necessarily always need to hire employees for some of those roles. There's a huge, huge, huge market for freelancers out there. So getting started, a couple of simple things: figure out what service you want to offer. There's a ton of variety, but figure out what you want to do for people. Think about who you want to work with. Do you want to work with online business owners? Do you want to work with podcasters, authors, restaurants, online boutiques, local boutiques, life coaches, fitness companies? There's so many different types of businesses that you could work with. So figure out who you want to work with, and then think from there, create a strategy to connect and put yourself in different networking opportunities that will allow you to naturally help them and naturally tell them about your services. And that's kind of what you need to get started, bare bones, bare basics.
So at this point, how many people have gone through your program?
Over 2,000.
On average, how fast would you say somebody lands their first client if they're putting in the work?
If they're putting it in the
Yes.
work. So let's go with that disclaimer.
Yes.
And what we just started kind of tracking this with numbers I saw from like all of our wins and testimonials. It's roughly 1 month from starting to put yourself out there, networking, implementing what I teach in step 6 of the program. People are able to land that first client within 30 days.
And this is very important because like a digital product, I mean, absolutely you could create and launch a digital product in 30 days. It's definitely different because you're putting together assets, you're learning tech. Like I can see where freelancing is a much lower barrier to entry to just get money coming in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Especially like if it's like, I need this. Because think about when you launch a digital product, you do need to buy some software too.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like, in essence, like freelancing can fund you doing a digital product down the road.
100%. I know so many women that were building their podcast or building their digital product, their coaching business or Etsy business on the side, but it just hadn't generated enough yet. And so they started freelancing, offering the skills that they've learned just running their own business to help fund more of like their passion project and passion business.
Which makes plenty of sense. So typically when people come into your program, where are they that it's like time for them to do this? Are they like, did they just have kids? Are they stay-at-home moms? Do they work? Like typically, what is it?
It's a lot of mix. I would say a majority of the people are moms with younger-ish kids. They're still in daycare and they're wanting to spend more time at home with their kids. Whether they just had their first or they had their second or their third. And they're like, I'm spending so much time in daycare. By the end, I'm barely breaking even. And I'm missing out on so much time. That's a big, big motivator and big population of who I serve. We also have stay-at-home moms who are like, I miss working. I want to do something. I don't want to go back to a full-time job. That was not my favorite thing. And then we also get not a lot, but we get a good handful of women who are empty nesters, even grandparents who are at that retirement age or have already retired and wanting to either supplement if they're still working or reinvent themselves after a career where they never fully quite felt fulfilled.
That's funny to me because my founders round of my new program, Haley and I, my operations manager, we did a Zoom call. Like it was like a brainstorming Zoom call. Like let's brainstorm our digital product out of the gate, right? About 80 people joined us on this call and you can see everyone's faces. And we were like shocked by the number of like 55 plus women.
Yeah.
I was blown. I mean, because my brand has always historically targeted like young millennial moms. Like that's been always. And I was just like, how did I attract? Like, it was just so, I was humbled by it that they trusted me and just kind of like blown away. And it was, a lot of them wanted to retire their husbands. They wanted to reinvent themselves. They hated their career. They got bored in retirement. They wanted to fun stuff to do with their grandkids. It was like, whoa, that is so cool. It goes to show like we can have a brand that is targeted towards one audience. Like yours is definitely targeted towards young moms. Like that's the vibe I've always gotten from your brand. And yet you can attract people. I always go through this and we always want to expand who we're talking to. But the reality is that you resonate with people outside of who you're talking to just naturally by being present, So I think that's very fascinating about your brand too.
Yeah. And it's one thing I use that a lot because one of the first steps in my program. So you asked like how long it can take for someone. There's 7 steps. Steps 1 through 5 are all about like building a solid foundation, getting kind of that baseline for building your business. Women come to me with no business background. A lot of times they've been teachers, nurses, they've worked in hospitality. A lot of them come without, like I did, without a business foundation. So we start with that. And then that can take anywhere from like a week to go through that, depending on how fast and decisive they are, to about a month. And then from there, they start networking. And we just started tracking this. We do these quarterly land client challenges. And we found that women who are consistent with that 30-day challenge, 75% or more of those 30 days, we're able to land up to 3 clients.
Wow.
During those 30 days.
See, it's all about being visible.
Visible and consistent, but you don't have to be perfect. And then people who participated in the challenge, just 50%, 50 to 75% or more, were able to land 1 to 2 clients in those 30 days.
Wow, that's impressive.
So there's so much opportunity.
So what are like the most popular services, or I guess you could say like industries you're finding people going into that are coming into your program?
A lot of virtual assistant and a lot of social media management to start. A lot of the people that start in virtual assistant will then start to specialize in something that they really love doing. When you get started as a virtual assistant, you get a lot of experience in different things. So you can really find out what you love and what you don't love. Some people that expands into just focusing on copywriting. Some people, they love the details. They love the back end, and they move into more of like a leadership, online business manager direction. And then social media is a huge one.
How do you overcome objections you get about tech? Because like every business, if you're working with online business owners, we all have our tech stacks. We all have the way we do things. No 2 businesses are ever the same. So do you help them? Is that part of your program to help them learn the different tech, like ConvertKit and lead pages and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So we don't cover all of those in detail because there's so much, and someone could spend their time learning every single different software out there. And I see people that will get stuck in that learning and that planning phase and never put themselves out there. So we don't teach the nitty gritty of like how to send an email and Ontraport and ConvertKit and MailChimp and blah, blah, blah. When they're getting started as virtual assistants, how I kind of have that structured is most clients who are hiring a virtual assistant, knowing that they're a beginner, they're going to have standard operating procedures in place, most likely, if they've been in business for a little bit. And so they'll have that kind of SOP in place of here's how to do this task. I need you to be my support. If one of the roles of the virtual assistant is like customer support help, they'll have documented the specific issues that frequently come up and how to problem solve that. So that's what we do in my business. And or when all of the different software companies, like if you're getting on a discovery call and you know someone uses ConvertKit and ClickFunnels, you can do some real quick digging, researching on those and play in a trial run on the software website. All of the softwares have free trainings because they want people to know how to use their software.
Well, actually, that's a very good point that these platforms do have free trainings that go overlooked. I mean, I have been in this world a long time and seen a lot of courses that would teach how to be a VA and everything. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone recommend go to the source to learn how to use the software. Duh.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to teach it better than they themselves. They want you to use it. And the best way to learn how to use a software is through experience and through doing it. Even if you're going through and you get stuck, there are a lot of the software have support channels where you can get on live chat. If they don't, sometimes there's Facebook groups where you can ask questions. But my students, whenever like newer students, they're learning something, they get stuck. We have such an amazing student community where they can come in and say, hey, I'm trying to create blah, blah, blah. Can anyone help me? I'm getting stuck with XYZ. And people are always willing to come in.
You're empowering your students to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I find is actually, instead of spoon feeding everything, I think it's actually better because part of being a freelancer too is you're going to have to problem solve for the business owner that you're working for anyway. So it's just like honing that skill. Okay. So what is the name of your program?
Overwhelmed to Overbooked.
Overwhelmed to Overbooked. Oh, I love that. That's such a good name. Did you trademark it?
I didn't.
You should.
I know. I hate attorneys. I'm married to one now. I
know you are, which is so funny.
He's not an IP attorney.
Well, you should still trademark it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you are in commerce for a long time too. So there's all that, you still have rights to it, but protect yourself. Okay. So aside from that, let's talk about the program and the structure of the program. let's go back first to when did this become a thing? So you were freelancing. We got up to April 2017 and you're still freelancing and quitting your teacher job.
So as I was freelancing, and still teaching and like trying to figure out what I was doing, I was the first one in my like friend circle to have kids. So I joined a lot of mom Facebook groups in my local community to like ask questions and just connect with other moms because I didn't have that in my real life. And as I was building my business and freelancing, landing clients, I started to see all of these questions. Every day, a different mom would post in this one specific Kansas City mom Facebook group, a different way of asking, how can I work from home without joining an MLM? Or I'm a stay-at-home mom. I want to make extra money. I do not want to join an MLM. And so I just naturally started helping them saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's some resources. Over time became known as the lady who can help you work from home without joining an MLM. And so people would ask, I would get tagged. I had a whole like story typed up in a Google Doc to help save me time. So I didn't have to retype it every time. And I would just copy and paste and go on my way. People could DM me if they had any questions. Well, one day it was August of 2017. So just a couple months after fully quitting teaching, still freelancing. And someone posted and I did my same thing that I always did. And then there were like 30 women wanting me to DM them more information. And I was like, I cannot absolutely DM all of you at a time. And I got stressed. I was like, I can't do this, but I want to help them. So I started a Facebook group. I was like, you know what? I can put you guys all in a Facebook group and I'll just help you all at the same time. And it kind of just quickly dinged in my head, like, you have learned how to do this. There are people who want to learn how to do this. You work with online business coaches and course creators. Start your own course. And so I just kind of winged it, did my first beta round. It launched in September of 2017. I had 10 students sign up. It was $50. And I gave those 10 students my all for that program. And one of those initial 10 members is actually on my team today. We've been working together for over 3 years.
Oh my goodness. And, how cool.
Yeah. And I would say out of those initial 10, 9 out of 10 went on to land freelance clients. And I would say 7 out of 10 of those are still freelancing today.
So while you were doing this, like founders beta round, were you still freelancing?
I was. About October, when I was like in that first beta launch, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had to offload my clients. I became way too passionate about helping other moms start freelancing and get started that I couldn't focus on anyone else's business at that point. It was like just mine now.
Isn't that funny how quick that can happen? Because that's a very similar, like, even though I never was technically a freelancer in this world, I said this in a previous podcast. I was like, my husband wanted me to take any contract that came my way. Freelancing to me sometimes came like I was working for someone else. And that was what I was trying to get away from in corporate. Like, this is just my personality. I just wanted to build my own brand. But it's funny how when you launch something, like for me, it was my first Pinterest course. I never set out to be known for Pinterest advertising or Pinterest marketing at all. Like, that was not what I wanted to do. Like, just like I'm sure you couldn't have predicted you were going to become known as the girl who can help you build a freelance business. Yeah. But how quickly it happens. Like, you just were testing the waters and then boom, before you knew it, it became a full-fledged business. So now we're like in the end of 2017, you pretty much offloaded clients, taught your 10 women, you've proved the program. So now what happens?
So that was a crazy, crazy ride of a time. I launched my first beta in October. In December, I was starting to make it evergreen and going live November, December, marketing it, getting new students. In December of 2017, my second son passed away. So there was kind of just a pause period of where I kind of just like shut down for a little bit and
understandable,
just dealt with life and I don't know, all of that. And then in April, May of 2018, that's when I got back into it and was like, okay, I'm going to revisit this, recommit, refocus. And 2018, I think we finished that year with about just over 30K in total revenue. The course was 197 back then. And 2019, we revised and relaunched it. And 2019, I finished the year just over 400,000 in total revenue.
Wait, you went from 30,000 in 2018 to 400,000 in 2019.
Yes.
Okay. That's incredible. So what did the price of the course go to?
Started out at 50, then went to 97, 197, 597, 797, and then it moved to 997 in 2019.
Basically, in 2018, you really built it out.
Yeah. And this was back in the good old days where I could run my Facebook ads, and it just, the world of online business has kind of changed since then. So like,
Sure has.
I went from 2018, 30,000 in revenue to 2019, 400,000 in revenue. I thought I was going to have the same margins in 2020.
2020 was abysmal. We were flat, like 11% over from 2019, but our profit margin was cut in half.
Yeah. I maintained a very healthy profit margin. I want to say like 40%, and we increased revenue by about 30%. And I thought I was going to make over $1 million in 2020, thought it was going to be amazing. And like, there was just challenge after challenge after challenge, it felt like. And I had some wake up calls of like expectations and realizing that for me, what's most important is like, I'm building a business that is allowing me to, yes, make a great income, but more importantly, make a great impact on people, and also allow me to live life how I want to and not be in an office stressed out, frazzled.
How funny. That is the exact realization I came to in 2020 as well. I hired too quickly, which really hurt our profit margin. I just found myself feeling like it was a job and not like I was making an impact that I wanted to make. And that's when I decided to walk away from Pinterest, because it was not serving the purpose that I wanted my business to serve. Like I felt like I had a bigger mission, and I couldn't accomplish that by just teaching in this like bubble of low dollar Pinterest ads. And it was like, I really got to a point where I felt like, if I'm not happy, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I just don't. I would rather walk away. I could build another brand. Both of us could walk away and build another brand. We know how to do that now. Yeah. And I would have rather done that than keep doing something that made me feel not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how's 2021 going?
It's about the same as 2020. We'll see how things
are you happy?
Out.
Yeah. How it's out. Yeah.
Yeah. 2018, I had another baby. Oh man. And then 2020, we had another baby. So our fourth, she's just 10.5 months.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like babies and movings and more babies. I think I've either been pregnant or breastfeeding my entire business career, definitely my entire marriage, except for maybe 2 months.
I give you lots of props for that.
I think I still want maybe 1 or 2 more. So I'm
way more ambitious than me.
enjoying. I want a big family, but I also, want to provide a really good life for them. So I work, but I don't want my work to overtake my life, which in this online space, there's so much pressure and messages of like more and scale and more and scale. And I'm just trying to
that is so funny.
That.
I set out this year saying, I want this to be my $1 million year. And in the same breath, I said, but if I don't hit it, it's okay. Yeah. And that's funny because I'm a very driven, goal-oriented person. But the reality is, like, I do want to hit the $1 million mark. And it could sound vanity, but it's not. It's because of statistics out there that only 2% of women business owners make that in a year. And like, that sounds like a glass ceiling that I'm ready to like go through. And it's just how I feel about it. But you know what? If it happens in 2022, that's fine as well. Because I think what I'm hearing you say, and basically how I feel as well, is it's more important that our lifestyle is the way we want it, that we're happy with it, and that we're still serving a purpose that matters to us.
Absolutely. I had a big wake up call at the end of 2020 was, a lot of people will publish income goals and all that, or their income reports. And I saw someone, her income report, she made like 2.5 million or 2.3, but took home less than what I took home.
I actually think I know which one you're talking about. Same.
And I saw that and was like, whoa, I am not going to like kind of back to the teaching mindset of I'm not working my butt off if it's not going to benefit me. And like, not to be selfish, but if I
it's your hard work that you're putting into it.
And so I looked at that and was like, I'm okay with my not hitting $1 million goal that I thought I was going to do.
I mean, in 2020, we built a house that's 3 times the size. I never ever thought I would be in this position. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't hit that elusive goal of $1 million yet in a year. But like, when you look at compared to like what I made in corporate, it's like mind blowing. You can do so much. You don't need to hit $1 million to have a really great lifestyle and do things that like I never could have imagined as a kid. Like we didn't grow up with a lot of money or anything like that. And I think people underestimate, you know, even with freelancing, like, do you have people in your course, in your program that make 6 figures? Yeah. And they're doing it on their own terms.
And a lot of women, their happy medium is 20, 25 hours a week max. And they're able to get there working those part-time hours. Not everyone. And it's not, I'm not saying that can happen in 3 months, but these are people that have been in freelancing for a year. They've gone on to make additional investments in their business, mostly skills training to further their skills, increase the value that they bring to their clients, and increase what they charge for their services as well.
Last question. I'm very curious. You alluded to the fact that Facebook ads have become difficult as they have. I just, right before this, was talking to a Facebook ads expert about how difficult they have become since iOS and like the different metrics now that we have to look at. And it's a complete brain like flip that you have to make to run ads. I know you've had trouble with your ad account in the past being shut down. Are you relying at all on Facebook ads right now?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Is that like,
I love it.
I do too.
When they work.
Is that the primary way you bring new people in at this point?
That is still my biggest traffic driver right now. I'm working on doing more organic Instagram, but yeah, I still rely on those ads. I don't know if I'll ever.
With the limited time that you do work and you don't have an actual, like we talked before we recorded, you have a lot of contractors to support your other freelancing moms, whereas I have employees who are dedicated to the business. It's a little bit of a different mindset there. But basically, like you work more finite hours than I do. And so doing ads is a much more concentrated thing than trying to be all the places organically. Like that's a lot more work. I always say you either pay with your time or you pay with your money. And since your time is finite, paying with your money makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I'm running my ads right now by myself. I'm just actually running story ads. They're a lot easier and the cost is a lot cheaper right now per sign up.
Just on Instagram stories?
Yeah, just Instagram stories.
Well, honestly, it kind of makes sense for you too, because like I watch yours, you're very organic on your stories as well. So it's like, I think that's probably how a lot of people like even organically connect to you.
I'm running like the cold traffic on Instagram, but then I want to bring them back to follow me and hang out with me in the stories and read my feed and learn and see what's possible and, you know,
and see
help them use that to make their decision.
Yeah. You walk around the house with a baby in your arms and you're giving tips that I can't, my brain, I swear I'd be tripping over my feet. I'd be like annoyed with my kid. I do not multitask like that. And when I watch your stories, I'm just like, wow, I'm just so impressed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But it's great to show your people like you can do this and have your baby on your hip. I'm a firm believer that moms, especially like we're superwomen. We just are like with the things that we can accomplish. And it's cool to see you out there, like inspiring us that you don't, you know, your kid doesn't have to be in daycare and you can still do this. I'm showing up on stories and my kid's here and it's great, you know?
Yeah. My kids are on my calls. If it bothers you, then I'm probably not the person for you. So
I love that, you know, because my kids aren't because of my focus issues. I have never, ever, like we've had on our team calls, I've had babies being fed and stuff like, you know, that's why we do what we do. It's great. And it's on our own terms. And it's like, you know, what works for you might not work for me, but it's great that we have that flexibility to choose, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So if someone's listening and they're like, hey, I want to learn how to freelance, where do they go to learn from you?
So you can go to micalaquinn.com/guide. That's going to be a free freelance starter kit, kind of a crash course on freelancing, diving deeper into kind of what we chatted about on here, a checklist and a skills assessment to help you determine what service to offer, as well as kind of like a breakdown of what some of those main freelance services are. And then connect with me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. If you go through that starter kit, you get stuck trying to do the skills assessment, you have any questions, don't be a stranger.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your knowledge with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. I have a brand new way for you to connect with me. I just launched a new Instagram account where I am sharing all of the best tips on how to grow a profitable digital product business. I'd love for you to come join me and send me a DM to say hello. The handle is @monica.froese, F-R-O-E-S-E. As always, you can find all of the links and information mentioned in this episode at monicafroese.com/podcast. See you here again next week.